When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
Building a portfolio with Fidelity Basket Portfolios is kind of like making a sandwich. It's as simple as picking your stocks and ETFs, sort of like your meats and other toppings, and managing it as one big, juicy investment. Now that's pretty good. Learn more at fidelity.com/baskets. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Hi, this is Curl Bro, and I support GenXGrownUp on Patreon, and you should too. And if you don't, I hope you leave enough room for my fists, because I'm going to ram it in your stomach and break your spine. Just go to GenXGrownUp.com/Patreon to sign up today.
No life, no fun. Don't you know that you're a grown-up?
GenXGrownUp is a YouTube channel, website, and audio podcast you're listening to right now. All made for and by people who love exploring media, games, tech, and toys of yesterday and today through the eyes of Gen Xers who refuse to grow up.
Your dinner cannot just be French fries. Basically, life sucks as a grown-up.
Welcome back, Gen X Grown Up podcast listeners, to this episode 187 of the Gen X Grown Up podcast. I am John. Joining me, as always, of course, is Mo. Hey, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Not a show without George. How's it doing, George?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
In this episode, we watch the newest entry in the big screen Marvel Cinematic Universe, check out a vintage electronic game where you're a caveman stealing eggs from a dinosaur, and play a maddeningly cute cooperative multiplayer game featuring a pair of mountain climbing penguins.
As they are wont to do.
Well, that's what penguins do, you know. That's so much more coming your way in this episode. First, though, it is time for some good business to take care of, starting with a fourth listener email. You know, the three of us are here. We tend to listen if anyone else does. You are our fourth listener, and we thank you for writing in. This time around, the fourth listener is Jimmy B. Now, Jimmy is one of the guys who's working through our back catalog. We get regular emails from him. The subject line of Jimmy's email this time around is After School TV. Gives you an idea where he is in the back catalog. He says, I have been binging your show now. As we know, I am now in February of 2018 and just heard the episode After School TV. I have a lot of fond memories of this, he says. Yeah, as do we all. He goes, we had here in Dallas, Channel 11. Now, I walked to school 1.5 miles and would run home every day to catch the shows on 11. This was my introduction to anime. They had Battle of the Planets and Star Blazers on at 3, and I loved those shows.
Nice.
Yep. After those, we would have the Banana Split show would come on, and then probably Gilligan's Island and some other show like the Brady Bunch or the Partridge Family. Then, for the cherry on top, the next hour was either Wonder Woman or Buck Rogers.
Really? Syndicated afternoon? Huh.
Yeah. I
never afternoon. I guess it's close to dinner at that point.
It's pushing evening by then. Yeah. By the time you get through all that stuff. Yeah. Right. You are. After that, the shows would get more adult, he says, and the one I remember most was Adam 12.
Oh yeah, my dad loved
Adam
that show.
12 came up a few episodes ago. We talked about that spin-off of Dragnet. We mentioned, right. Sure enough. Must be time to do an Adam 12 backtrack, right, guys? It's like when you shop for things and then suddenly you start getting ads for them. That's what's happening in the podcast. We mention it. It shows up everywhere. He wraps up the email saying, look forward to finally catching up. Just a few more years to go, Jimmy. All right. Thank you, Jimmy. We appreciate that you took the time to write in. You're tearing through the back catalog. It's impressive. You're making it through. We thank you for writing in as well. If you would like your email featured here on the show, you know it is drop dead easy. Just hit us up at podcast@genxgrownup.com. We'll read every single one, and most of them, like Jimmy's, will eventually make the show. And before we jump into the show, one more bit of good business to take care of, a new Apple Podcast review. We haven't read one of those in a while. Yep.
Cool.
This one I've had in the hopper to take a look at for a while. And this one is a 5-star review. Awesome. From Rocker67. I want to guess
year.
he was born in 67. That's my
good
guess.
year. Good year.
Subject of the review is fun time remembering. And Rocker says, this is a podcast where it feels like you are at the table with 3 other friends, remembering how it was growing up. I love hearing that. We've heard that from a lot of folks. I love hearing that. I'm going to say it's a vibe we were going for, but it's the vibe we've settled into. And I love when that's how it resonates with folks. He goes on to say, they talk about things coming up in the times we live in now, then do a show on things we grew up with. The show was very informative and funny at the same time. Even when they talked about the Dewey Decimal System, I was in tears from laughing at their interactions. So if you want to know what it was like growing up as or were a Gen Xer, then this is the podcast for you.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow.
We appreciate it. Look,
Yeah.
these reviews, I think most people that listen all the time, they either have already done it or have already decided they're not going to do it. But if you're in the latter category and you haven't yet, what it does, it just helps us percolate to the top of lists when people search for topics we cover. We're going to show up first. So wherever you listen, Apple or I'm going to say Apple or iTunes, same damn thing. Apple or Pocket Casts or Android or wherever you listen, please take the time to drop us a review and let people know what you enjoy about the show, like Rocker67 did, which we're much appreciative of. Okay, with all of that good business in the rearview mirror, it's time to jump to the body of episode 187 after this quick break.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pup, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
You're listening to Gen X Grown Up. But if you have a friend who's not yet listening, why not? Tell them about us. They'll thank you later.
For Post Natural Bran Flakes, John Newcomb on getting the best out of life.
Staying on top requires a good serve, strong approach, and a great put away.
Reach for the best tasting high fiber bran flake. Post Bran Flakes at their best. For Post Natural Bran Flakes, Lena Horne on getting the best out of life.
Taking care of my voice, body, and taste buds is what keeps the brass in this horn.
Reach for the best tasting high fiber bran flake. Post Bran Flakes at their best.
Let's get the ball rolling here at the top of the show, talking about the media we have been enjoying since we last spoke. Now, you guys know this could be comics or books or movies or television or music or whatever you were enjoying in that milieu. And I'm going to start with you, Mo. What have you been checking out in media?
Yep. So I finally saw Captain America, Brave New World. With the Red Hulk and all that stuff in it. So I watched it, and I wasn't sure what kind of expectations I had for it. I don't know if I had good or bad. I was just sort of kind of going in with sort of neutral, just wherever it is. And it was not a bad movie. I think the only problem I had is I wasn't sure if knew what kind of movie it wanted to be, and it seemed like it was like trying to walk this like balance. It kept going like is it a action adventure, or is it really trying to push like a political, like make a statement about things and times? Is it trying to do this? Is it trying to? It seemed like it was trying to do all of it,
right?
Which kind of made the plot very dense. Now it does take place in the official MCU, so it takes place after the events of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and and things that happened there in the movies, and et cetera, et cetera. It's him trying to. It seems like he's kind of established himself now as the new Captain America. And there was an interesting part where he's even offered the super soldier serum and he turned it down.
Right.
And he was debating whether or not that was a good decision, bad decision, because he struggles with a lot of these things. And that part was very interesting. The cool part was like they brought in I don't know if you guys saw the Falcon and Winter Soldier series or not.
Yeah, I saw part of it, so I'm familiar with it. I thought several episodes. Yeah.
I thought one of the coolest parts of that is when they found out that Captain America that we know wasn't the first super soldier.
No, he wasn't.
Like the first one was somebody, but he was black. That's why they couldn't use him for publicity. But he was actually, and they had no trouble sending him into like dangerous missions and sending Captain America, they kind of like protected him at the start. They had no trouble sending into these dangerous missions and doing these impossible things and stuff. He's in this movie as well and has a pretty big role, which was kind of cool to see him come back and kind of rehash that storyline again, which I thought was interesting.
That same actor I like, he was also in Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined version, and he had a very similar role of a soldier who was basically put in harm's way, left out to die, and then came back and had a whole bunch of mental problems and whatnot. So it was interesting to see this guy getting to play that same role again because he does it so well.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I got a chance to see it too, and like you, they're really. I guess they took a big break. Like after the last Ant-Man, the multiverse Ant-Man or whatever, they really dialed back on the number of cinematic releases of things. I think last year we had the Wolverine crossover, which kind of was barely it was MCU, but it was a different flavor of MCU, I guess. And so this was like the return of their big tentpole MCU movie. And I still have that feeling, although it's not so bad now because some time has passed. And I'm not going to say the superhero fatigue, it's not that, but that feeling that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is homework. That like like for example, I didn't watch all of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, so I wasn't aware that we had seen that first super serum guy before. I thought it was just backstory from a comic book that I didn't know or just hadn't watched.
Well, which is true as well, but
right, of course it was in the comic, but that's that syndrome of I feel like I didn't catch up on everything. But the upside that I will give this film credit for is that even though I hadn't done all my homework and watched every frame of everything that was on TV and movies up until now, I understood the story. They set up enough dialogue, exposition to explain who he was. And I had to go like, oh, I didn't know that. When would I have learned that? It was my fault I didn't see it, but I was able to follow the story and understand it very clearly. So that's a feather in the cap of the MCU kind of spooling up again, that they're embracing and making sure if you're not caught up, you're not left in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no wonder that they took some time off between the films because they kind of had to due to some real world issues with where they were going to go with the next generation of Marvel films. That one actor who was going to be playing Kang, who was, going to be the big bad for the next phases, he got in all kinds of trouble, got canceled, did a whole bunch of bad stuff or whatever, got accused. I don't even know how, what his case ended up with, or if it's even been wound up or whatnot, but they couldn't use him. So they basically had to pivot. I don't know if they did that because I haven't seen this film yet, but Mo, would you say that they found a new way to address that kind of stuff in this movie? Like who's going to be the big bad for the next phase?
No, there's no big bad here. This is just really its own movie.
So we're just Red Hulk and it's a standalone and that's it.
Standalone best. Yeah. I mean, they touch on the stuff that went on.
I mean, there's little cameos and there are threads, but like you say, Mo, they didn't like set up a brand new arc in this feeling. Maybe they laid some groundwork we can't see, but they didn't show a replacement for the Kang character, really. They just kind of said, like so many other Captain America films, it was kind of its own thing in the continuity.
So, and maybe they haven't figured that out yet, which maybe that's not a bad thing. They take their time and actually come up with a decent and vet their actors a little bit better.
Well, they better figure something out fast because James Gunn is coming for their ass.
Oh, you're not kidding. Yeah, you're not serious. Have you seen those Superman trailers? Oh, they look good. They look good. So, all right. So that's what I saw. So how about you, John? What do you got for us this week?
Yeah, I have a film that I was looking forward to, and I finally a quick story.
This is funny.
I was eager to go see Mickey 17. This is this new film starring Robert Pattinson where he's able to be cloned. And so when he dies, he's an expendable guy on this spaceship. And I tried to go see it. I got tickets to go see it last Saturday. And I got to the theater and they said, yeah, we're closed. I'm like, well, closed? You're a theater. It's Saturday. What do you mean? Yeah, Mo had tickets. We were meeting up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they had a big power hit and all of our projectors haven't rebooted and half the things are offline. We're not going to be open today at all. So they refunded my ticket. But a few days later, I did get a chance to go and see Mickey 17. And how do I talk about this movie? They talk about movies that are greater than the sum of their parts. This is one of those movies that is less than the sum of its parts, by which I mean, I think the cinematography here is remarkable. It's a gorgeous looking film. The world almost feels like the Fifth Element world a little bit.
Okay.
Without the whimsy, a little more dark, but kind of that universe. The performances here by Mark Ruffalo and Robert Pattinson and several others. Robert Pattinson especially, because he's playing multiple versions of himself and each version they clone is different. He behaves very, very differently. I guess I should real quickly. Premise of the film is that it's near future, maybe a couple hundred years in the future, and these spaceships, the Earth is awful. We've destroyed it with pollution and everything and the environment. So we're going to other planets, and they send these ships off, and it's hard to get on the ship. But if you want an easy way on, you can take the job of an expendable. And they scan your memories and your brain and your body and everything. And they do give you all the crap, dangerous jobs, because as soon as you die, they have like this big belt-fed 3D printer where they print a new one of you and upload your memories mostly. So you have a continuous consciousness. But they send you, like if there's a plague, they're going to give you the vaccine and you go test the plague. If it doesn't work, well, print a new one of you, right? So that's what Pattinson did to help get away from a situation he was in on Earth. But so with that said, the film looks great. The soundtrack it's moving. The actors are really good. The performances are nice. But I found myself, it's that curse of movies where I'm looking at my watch. And I don't necessarily think the movie was too long, but there were so many different things going on. I mean, you almost said of Captain America, it didn't know what kind of movie it wanted to be. I think Mickey 17 knew what kind of movie it wanted to be, but it had all these storylines that almost were more than you needed in a film, and it caused you to not be able to spend time. Like, I wanted to learn more about the cloning technology and the sci-fi aspect, but then they were throwing this political angle that's very social commentary on what's going on in the U.S. political climate right now. And then they're throwing on this alien bugs thing a la Starship Troopers is happening on top of it. Just so much going on that I felt I was never fully satisfied in any one of the storylines.
Yeah, I had similar feeling because when I saw it, like, especially my Mark Ruffalo character and his wife's character, they were so like extreme compared to every other character in it. That
exaggerated.
It stuck out. Like, it stuck out. Like, they could. I think if they were a little subtler with that, like not making quite that extreme, I think it would have been better. Because right now, I mean, it was like the second he opened his mouth, you knew exactly what kind of person he was, and the things they did was just like, they were trying to see how over the top they can make these characters. The thing I did like the 3D printing clone thing because it cracked me up when the first time you see him making a clone, he kind of comes out of the printer like like a dot matrix printer, like a
belt fed. Like it pulls back a little bit and then goes forward.
And then
print shot, making a banner. Yeah.
But you said, I mean, I thought all the acting was amazing. I thought the story was good. I felt satisfied about the ending, but yeah, it seems like that character just seems so out of place for me that it distracted me from the rest of the movie.
Okay.
I get the impression, and this is something that I've seen happen a lot with movies of the last like 5 or 10 years, John, that this movie sounds like it was trying to be a multi-tool as opposed to just a hammer or just a screwdriver or just a knife.
The printer fax copier syndrome, right? That we've talked about before.
Yeah. And I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm definitely still going to watch it regardless of, I know you guys didn't have the experience you wanted. But I think sometimes those movies, to your point, they try to be too many things, even though you're kind of subjected to the film, like the film is presented to you and you just kind of have to watch it. I think sometimes it's a little bit easier to watch those movies if you can just narrow in and focus on the part that you're enjoying and try to let the other stuff just kind of wash over you and not really try to find too much in it. For me, Mickey 17, I want it to be a politically charged comedy. And that's kind of, I'm hearing some of that in what you're describing.
Definitely there.
That's in it. That's certainly in it, but that's not all it is. It's also got a fax and it's also got a copier, right? It's all those things. Yeah. Yeah. I certainly wouldn't discourage you. And to your point, I would agree that watching it and knowing what to focus on, I probably would enjoy it better on a second watch. The problem is the first time through, you don't know what you can ignore because you don't know what the central focus is and what I need to pay attention to. Well, now I know there are parts I can ignore and enjoy it for those parts for what they are. And maybe having heard my review of it, somebody going into it will know going in, hey, don't try to over focus on everything you're seeing. Find the part of the movie because every part of the movie has an arc, beginning, middle, and end. If you just enjoy that part, just pay attention to that part. It is worth seeing. It's not going to be one of my favorites of the year by any stretch, but it's an also ran. It was something that, I didn't regret watching, but it's worth seeing once probably. Maybe better the second time. Now, George, the film that you've picked was notorious for the hair design. I know. Tell us your experience with this film.
Well, so the movie I picked, Like, when we're doing these segments and we have 3 things listed, and we always will say something like, oh, save the best for last, or we'll joke, oh, save the worst for last. We kind of save the middling for last in this case. It's not great. It's not horrible. It's kind of in that neutral zone of what to do. Anyway, it's called Flight Risk. And this is the one that stars Mark Wahlberg and Michelle Dockery and Topher Grace. Now, I say those 3 names because other than a couple of like no-name red shirt characters at the beginning of the film, they're the only people you actually see through 95% of the film, because this is one of those movies where they tried to do an isolation storyline. Like, we've seen movies before where it's like one actor in the trunk of a car and anybody else that he interacts with is only through like a headset thing in his ear or something like that. They tried to do that with this film, but with 3 actors instead of just 1. And instead of the trunk of a car, it's an Alaskan prop plane. So it's one of those little puddle jumper type planes that goes from one city to another in the harsh climates of the Alaska wilderness. Now, the premise of the story is that Michelle Dockery's character is a government agent who's tracking down a guy that she wants to flip and turn on a mafia boss. And that turns out to be Topher Grace. That part of the storyline is understood, and she gets him in cuffs 45 seconds into the film.
Okay.
I have never seen a transition that fast in one of these types of movies.
Get to the point.
Yeah, absolutely. They were only looking to get to the airplane because that's where the main guy, Mark Wahlberg, is going to come in. And I think it's because his name probably greenlit this film.
Yeah,
if it's just her and Topher Grace, I don't think this film gets made because the script was not that strong, truthfully. And there's probably a fair amount of expense and budget with all of the set design and the shots outside the plane that they would have had to get and everything. Anyway, Mark Wahlberg's character, he's the pilot of this little prop plane, Cessna, whatever kind of thing. He jumps on board and he's all countrified and, chewing gum and, aw shucks, ma'am, I never met a real agent, blah, blah, blah. It's very obvious because even if you saw just a single trailer, he's a hitman trying to kill the witness. Anyway, of course, he's not just a hitman. He's a very twisted, demented hitman who apparently likes his work so much he doesn't even care about getting paid. Like Topher Grace a couple of times when the lady is out of commission and it's him and Mark Wahlberg. He's like, I'll give you $1 million right now. He's like, dude, I paid them to do this.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
I like skilling.
His character is, he's like, I'm going to fly you out to an abandoned airstrip that nobody knows about. And we're just going to have some fun.
Damn.
He's very twisted. Anyway, there's struggles inside the plane. Some of them believable, some of them not so believable. They end up getting the upper hand. They handcuff him. He gets out of it 2 or 3 times, and you're like, "Holy shit!"
Why
it's
not?
an okay movie. I'm describing it far too long for the worth it is for you to go see it. This is one of those movies that it wouldn't have even been on my free spot at A-list. This is absolutely only a public domain or streaming service watch. Like when you have nothing else to do and you're like, damn, I can't figure out anything to do right now. I want to watch something. Okay, maybe throw this thing on somewhere.
Got it.
I mentioned the questionable hair design. I mean, Mark Wahlberg was on social a lot with his. They cut him a typical male balding pattern, and I remember like his family, his kids were like, "That's so weird" and everything. Was it as distracting in the film as it apparently was on social media and in the trailers?
In the scene that they reveal it, it's very weird because he comes on the plane and he's wearing a hat and it appears to be a full head of hair. What he actually has is essentially, and I'm sure there was a pun intended by somebody on that set, he has a landing strip of a balding pattern down the middle of his head. And when they're in one of the first struggles and fights, Topher Grace pulls his hat off and there's like a hairpiece attached to the hat. And he's like, what the fuck? Like they call attention to it even. And you're like,
okay,
weird.
Why is that necessary? They never go back to it. It's not like later on he gets burned on the top of his head or anything or some weird tattoo, outs him as a bad guy. Nothing like that. It's just there.
So it wasn't even a part of the plot. They just shaved his head weird just because?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think they shaved his head. It really looked like a bad makeup piece. Really? It wasn't even a good one. It just. So, but you could get past that.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of weird things too. She has in her ear her immediate supervisor and the head of her agency at different times. And it turns out one of them is a traitor who's helping the mafia boss track him down. And that's how how Mark Wahlberg's character ended up on the plane and everything. There's nothing in it that you haven't seen a million times before. Mark Wahlberg is funny as shit as a psychotic torture killer guy.
Haven't seen him in a while.
Grace is okay as the mafia's accountant who's scared for his life. Dockery is not terribly believable as the agent. And of course, she is also not just an agent. She's an agent with a troubled past who was put on desk duty, and this is her first time out. And
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Because they always send a single agent with important witnesses.
Yeah. It definitely could have been something better. It could have been. They just never lived up to it. It feels like something that everybody involved filmed in between other movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this segment, we have 3 movies that you can see or not. None of them are must absolute watches.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's that range in there, but it's what we saw. All right. Nice. Thanks, guys. We'll be back after this quick break.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Fred Warner, linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers. Abercrombie has the new suits you need, plus all the collared shirts to go with them. The Abercrombie & Fitch Collins suit is the only suit you'll ever need for any occasion. Available in slim, classic, and athletic. Pair with a collared classic. Go with a soft, easy-to-wear sweater polo or a comfortable long-sleeve shirt. With so many different fits and fabrics, you can make a look that's completely your own. Add the Abercrombie & Fitch Collins suit and new collared shirts to every occasion this season. Shop online or in store.
I think I just won my taxes.
Yeah?
I just switched to H&R Block in about 1 minute. All I had to do was drag and drop last year's return into H&R Block, and bam, my information is automatically there.
So I don't have to go digging around for all my old papers to switch?
Nope.
Sounds like we just leveled up our tax game.
Switching to H&R Block is easy. Just drag and drop your last return. It's better with Block.
Be sure to subscribe to or follow Gen X Grown Up wherever you listen. And while you're there, rate and review the show too. It helps more than you know.
Well, I'm stuck on you. I want you to know whatever you do, wherever you go, well, I'll be there to guard you, to care for you.
Nothing sticks like Band-Aid brand's unique adhesive, so nothing protects better against dirt and germs. That's protection you can stick with from Johnson & Johnson.
You know I'm stuck on you.
I'm going to kick us off on tech and toys this time because something I'm starting to get back into is reading books, physical books, rather than ebooks.
It's because you're old. That's why you like the old
technology. Maybe that's it. We were flying and I brought a book with me instead of trying to read off the ebook. And I just forgot how much, I don't know. It's something about reading a book that just makes it a more of an experience. I don't know if that's the right word for it or not. We read an ebook, I always felt a little detached from what I was reading. Whereas when you're holding a book, you kind of feel like you're, I don't know, it's more active, more tactile.
Sure.
You're turning pages, all that kind of stuff. So the problem is, of course, is that, at night at home, if you're reading on your Kindle or whatever, you have a backlight, you can read in the dark, not a problem.
Sure.
Well, I couldn't do that obviously with a book, right? And turning on any of the lights is going to be too bright in the room. So I found an LED reading light that you actually can attach to the book.
Oh, sure.
It was super cheap. It was like $15, I think, total. And let me tell you, this little thing, it's rechargeable, USB-C, of course, which is awesome. Like all good things these days. Had 3 different, you could do a cool light, a warm light. You could adjust the brightness on it as well. Super simple. The light is really directed right onto the pages. So very little bit kind of spills out around the room. So the rest of the room does remain relatively dark. As dark as you can get with the light on in there. And it actually worked. And it's actually kind of renewed my okay, I really enjoy reading paperbacks again and reading like books again. So not super technical, not really that exciting, but hey, very practical.
Yeah.
Well, oddly enough, Mo, I didn't know. I saw it on the list. I hadn't clicked your link, and I know you'll put the link in the show notes later on. I clicked it while you were talking because I wanted to see a little bit about it. I actually already own this thing. I bought it like 4 years ago, apparently.
The very one?
And I still have it in my room.
Oh, wow.
And I used it, I think, for like a month or so. But oddly enough, I was using it with a book, like you were saying, but I didn't clip it to the book because those things always get in my visual sight line. They distract me.
Oh, I see.
So I clipped it to a part of the headboard of the bed.
That works, yeah.
And then just used it as a little light to
like
shine down from there, and it worked great. It has good intensity, enough that even like probably 12 inches above my head and maybe 16 inches or 18 inches above the book, it still lit everything up really well. And I liked the different colors, especially that warm light, because it made me feel like I wasn't blue lighting myself into no sleep. Right. So
yeah, the different colors. I was just looking. Like George, I clicked on it. Now I didn't click on it, realize I owned one, but I did click to see a little more about it. And the color temperature reminds me of. I think many of us are night owls. We stay up way too late, later than we should. But I have found that I do have trouble sleeping when I stay up till 12 or 1 in the morning or 2 sometimes. And so I will put my TV I'm watching, it's on a computer, and I'll turn that night light on that makes everything that warm darker. Kind of, they pull the blues out. It's just kind of like orange. And I can imagine if you fall asleep reading, a book light like this is probably going to make you fall asleep reading faster because you pull all the blues out. It probably helps you get drowsy. And I saw 80 hours runtime on a rechargeable.
Yeah.
You probably have never recharged it.
I haven't yet. No,
I've had mine for 4 years. I haven't recharged it.
Yeah. And it's pretty durable because I have dropped it twice already. So I fell asleep and sort of fell off the bed. So it's pretty durable. But yeah, like I said, it's inexpensive and it works, which is the best of two worlds as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's good.
So, but yeah, so I think, John, you actually have like an actual toy, right?
I do. Right. Okay. Well, it's a technological toy, so it fits in our tech toy segment perfectly, right? So I'm still riding high. On about 3 weeks ago or so, on weekend, I drove out to a antique mall and I came across a mother lode of old, like 70s and 80s handheld and desktop electronic games, like a Blip and things we've talked about already. And the one recently that I've spent the most time with, and I know we talked about these gadgets when you were out, Mo, George and I talked about, I got some voltmeters and power supplies and stuff to test these gadgets out. And the one that I have most recently looked at, and really, I want to call it singularly because I keep going back to it. Now, some of these, admittedly, being a content creator, you cover this thing and then you're on to the next thing and you don't always have time or inclination to go back to the thing you already covered. But that's not the case with this. So it's from 1982. It's from Tomy Electronics and it's called Caveman. Now, I first heard about it. Oh, I don't know. Remember when I got the Tron a year or so ago, I got that Tron toy. George, you were drooling over it. I know. So it's made by the same company. And when I posted that video, people said, that reminds me of Caveman, which is even better. And I'm like, A, I've never heard of Caveman. And B, better than Tron? I don't know. We'll see. But, and it was very expensive, by the way. A working one on eBay is like minimum $125. And I just figured I would never have one unless I stumbled across one in the wild at an antique mall, which is what happened here. And I picked it up for like $40. And I'm like, even if it doesn't work, it's worth more than that in parts, but this one worked. So the thing that makes it so cool, and I will, of course, Mo, I'll give you the link to the video that I did if somebody wants to go and see gameplay and what it's like. It's surprising as far back as 82 when they were making these. I mean, this is post, Mattel football and the LED blippy things, or a little more. This is one of those VFD displays, which is the vacuum fluorescent, meaning that it's like an LCD in that there are predetermined cells that can light up, but each one has a different color, like a different gas in it. So they have multicolor. So each little cell can be red or blue or green. So it's a multicolor screen.
Okay.
And it's how they use those things that really the genius in these. We've talked before about what's so neat about early video games is seeing how developers worked within the limitations to come up with something interesting.
Yeah.
And what I find really fascinating about these early VFD handhelds is how the creator, the designer, the engineer came up with creative ways to cut up the little pieces of the screen in such a way they can be reused. Like this guy's body is just kind of arms and legs, like a little, X. But sometimes, normally his head is on top of him. But if he gets hit by the dinosaur, he goes sliding back and they light up a head below it. So it looks like he's upside down. Just creative ways to reuse parts of it. In one case, a little lit section might look like a piece of falling volcanic rock, and in some cases it might look like an axe you're throwing, depending on when they light it up and how you use it. But all of that results in a game that isn't like an LCD or VFD style game in many ways because it's so involved. You have a dinosaur from whom you're trying to steal eggs. You work your way across the screen to grab an egg. To grab an egg, you first must throw a hatchet to bonk the dinosaur on the head. When they do, you have a second to grab that. In later levels, there's a pterodactyl flying across it trying to steal the eggs you've already claimed. In even later levels, the volcano in the background is erupting, and there are little pieces of like hot ash falling that you have to avoid. So you're dodging the dinosaur, you're knocking him out with an axe, you're picking up his eggs, you're watching out for the pterodactyls, you're looking out for this falling ash. And remember, all of this is not on a dot matrix screen, it's on just a little light up an individual cell. I understand now. It is such a remarkable old game. If all this sounds confusing, just go watch 5 minutes of the video and see. It's tremendous, and I can't believe my luck in getting one of these. I understand why people said better than Tron. Oh, it's better than Tron, but it's damn good.
So I was actually looking at it. Where are the controls on it that you actually use when you're playing the game? Like, what do the controls do?
You have just two controls. You have a left, right, and a throw or hit. And that's it. You just move the little caveman left and right, back and forth. He has about 6 different positions he can be in. And depending on where he's standing is which way he's going to throw his little axe to defeat one of the monsters or knock out the dinosaur. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you come across one, when I first saw it across the way, I was with our friend Marcus. He was with me, and I said, "Oh my God, I think that's a caveman. That looks like a caveman." And sure enough, it was. When you stumble across something like that, look, I could have tried to eBay and finagle. There's no sweeter deal than finding one in the wild and getting a good bargain on it. And that's what I did, and it worked awesome to have in my collection. So I'll keep covering more of these on videos, but I want to call out Caveman specifically because it was just so neat.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger, so I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Each episode of Gen X Grown Up has show notes loaded with links where you can learn more about our topics. And there's even more to see and hear over at GenXGrownUp.com.
Aquafresh case history number 75.
No, I don't know much about fluoride, but I do know that I've never had a cavity in my whole life. I'm not an expert on plaque either, but my dentist says that I don't have to worry about my gums. My gums are healthy. I've been brushing with Aquafresh since I was a kid.
Triple Protection Aquafresh. It does more than fight cavities. It freshens breath and helps remove plaque for healthier gums in one complete toothpaste.
Aquafresh, look at the results.
Aquafresh, more than cavity protection, triple protection.
This is the main event of the podcast. For the 3 in attendance locally and the millions listening around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time!
All right, time to talk about games. Mo, I want to jump to you real quick because I know the game that I picked to talk about on my part of the segment, it's going to be one that we're all 3 going to talk about. So it's kind of going to become the main discussion. But the thing you put on the list, I think I understand how it's going to happen, but I don't know if I quite believe it because I want to understand if you're talking about everything.
Yeah. Okay. So little backstory. I have in my living room, I have a set of shelves that all my games are on, right? it's a little full right now. And I made a promise to myself that I would not buy more games that would fit on these shelves.
Now, are we talking board games or video games or both?
Board games. Board games.
Okay.
And if I have to put something in there, I'm going to get rid of something else, right? Ooh. So we were all big fans of Return to Dark Tower, right? Amazing game, right? Amazing game. The only negative is that with the expansions, it takes up a lot of space, the boxes. I mean, we all know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So which expansion, though? Because there's multiple.
No, all of them.
Including the one that came out like 2 years later.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right.
So the Covenant expansion, what are the other two names? I forget the names of, but yeah, all the expansions. I have all the expansions, the alliances. So I have all the expansions. So I was looking, it's like, okay, is there a way we get this into a single box? Not necessarily a Dark Tower box, but a good normal box.
That's starting to make it, because I can put it all in a single box. It's black with a yellow lid.
Yeah. Well,
a storage tub you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I, of course, jumped to the 3D printing community because they have a ton of Dark Tower add-ons, all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I ran across this guy who was selling 3D printed plans to fit everything except for the mat, of course. The roll-up mat. Like, you couldn't fit the mat. But it fit everything else into the original Dark Tower box, which is the biggest box of the whole group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't buy this bullshit. That feels like you just got sold plans to a beanstalk that would take you up into the sky.
Well, I finished printing it, and it's all in one box. Every single piece.
What?
The only thing that doesn't fit, he says, the cardboard map won't fit in it. Like the cardboard, the original map it comes with. So that has to be outside. And the roll-up mat, obviously, every other thing fits in the box. Now, the box, you know how if you guys aren't familiar, the Return to Dark Tower box, the lid and the bottom don't actually meet. Like there's a little space in there.
Yeah.
So this does lift up about like a quarter inch.
It's taller.
So it's about a quarter inch taller when you're all said and done, but it all fits in one really heavy box. I'm talking about all the minis.
Right, yeah.
Also, I took all the cardboard pieces that I now have the plastic replacements for. Those I put separate. I store off to the side too. Those aren't included in there. So, but everything else fits in one freaking box. Believe it or not.
Now, Mo, I've seen Doctor Who. I'm familiar with how the TARDIS works. How it is somehow larger on the inside than it appears on the outside. I remember when Dark Tower first came out, and there was just one expansion. I would see kits of people going,
"Here's to fit everything into." Yeah,
we've cracked the atom. We figured out how to fit all these things in a box, and now a new expansion has come along.
Yeah,
where would they find more space? This is, and you said it's heavy. It's got to be 30 pounds.
It weighs a freaking ton. Yeah, and I'll take pictures and I'll put them out there with all the levels. And you can see everything in it. But literally, like I'm looking at, like, the original boxes now are just the old cardboard pieces I don't use.
Damn.
And that's it. Everything
and
else.
You've got and you had to get rid of the original inserts, though.
Oh yeah, this is just, you start with an empty box.
See, that was a thing. Why I didn't go down that rabbit hole was because I really liked those original inserts that they did. They were very careful, and every plan I found was either throw them away or cut them.
Yeah, and this one you don't use any of the inserts. And the thing is that they do build supports for the tower, so that your tower is not like rattling. It's supported in there, and they have things that fit on top of the tower. I mean, they make use of every square inch that you possibly can.
Well, they'd have to.
I mean, this thing is super dense.
A game of Tetris with all your pieces of Dark Tower.
It really is.
Dovetails. And
now the only criticism I have is I wish some of the trays that the guy designed, like, they actually put like the names of what to put in each one, but he didn't do it for all of them, which I think is kind of they really should have done for all of them. But I got a label maker. I'm just going to use my label maker, tape labels on so I know when and where. But because he does send like pictures of like, here's how it all fits together, here's how it looks. I'm like, okay, I'm never going to remember that. I need words to help me figure this thing out here.
It's like the instructions for the game and instructions for how to get the game in the box. He has two sets of manuals now.
But it all fits in one box, which now clears up a ton of space on my shelves. Because, as you know, these things take up a lot of space. The plans, he charged $10 for the amount of work he put into it. Totally worth it to me.
And then you printed yourself.
And I just printed it myself. It took a while to print, of course. Some of the some of the things took a while to print. But I said I just finished printing everything yesterday, and I now have Dark Tower one box. Every single thing that came with it.
I want to see it. I want to see pictures.
Did you have to go through more than one spool of filament?
Yes.
What? You did?
Yes.
Holy God. No wonder it's heavy.
Yeah.
Half the weight is a filament now.
Yeah. Now, granted, I did have one part. I just became a big spaghetti ball at the end, so I had to reprint it. But once I figured out what I did wrong there, I was able to fix it, and it printed just fine. But yeah, I'll take pictures of it. I'll put it on the show notes too, so you guys can see it. I'll throw it on our Discord channel. How about that?
Love it. Yeah.
So GenXGrownUp.com/Discord.
Yep.
There you go.
Ooh,
and I'll put the pictures and show you what it took to put it together. But it fits every single expansion into one box.
That's wild.
So it's pretty amazing. So, all right. So that's what I have. So George, what is it? Actually, I know the game you're going to talk about.
Yeah. We all know the game that I'm going to talk about. Before we get to it real quick, I just want to give a quick note to everybody. When you get this episode, if you download it day one, you're going to have a few hours left to enjoy the Steam Spring Sale. It started on the 13th.
That's right.
It ends on the 20th. For some reason, I thought those sales went for 2 weeks, but this one's only going for a week. It's got some nice games on it. One that I want to call attention to that I'm going to try and play at some point. It's called Spiritfarer. It's one of these independent studios that did it. It's normally a $30 game. It's on sale for $2.99 right now. So there's some good stuff on the sale, as there usually is. Now, the spring sale is not their big one. It's not the summer sale or the winter sale, which is the second one. But it's got some good stuff in it. So anyway, go check it out. You got a few more hours left before it ends. That being said, a game that we did not have to buy on Steam because our friends over at Atari threw us some keys because John found out about an out of nowhere game drop from Atari, emailed me or messaged me in Discord, I forget what, and said, hey, can you reach out to our friends over at Atari and see if we get some keys to play on a live stream and maybe give away? It's a game called Bread and Fred. And in John's intro earlier, he talked about two little squishy penguins that like to climb mountains together. And that's essentially all this game is. They are tied together by a climbing rope, and that climbing rope both limits and helps you in the gameplay. And they each have the same ability so far that we can see. They just have different little, just different little colored clothing to differentiate between Bread and Fred. It's a fun little game. I was the third person to get to play it. I didn't get to play it first. John was the first one to play it, and you and Mo played it on the live stream because, unfortunately, that was the same weekend that my cat ate my fiber cable, and I couldn't get reliable internet to save my life. So I'll let you guys talk a little bit about your experience during that live stream, and then if there's anything for me to add, I'll bring it back up. But I thought it would be a good game for us to all talk about.
No, sure. Yeah, I mean, John, you text me, said, hey, you want to play this game on a live stream? And I was like, let me look at it. And I said, I tried, and there's a solo version and a two-person version. I tried playing the solo version. I'm like, oh, this is awful. Then we played together, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, it came out, I want to say, a couple of years ago initially. The new drop that Atari was a brand new expansion, and it's on sale. Right. So it's on sale or as an expansion, and we were able to play it for our viewers. And like you, first I'm like, oh, it has multiplayer. That's great. I'll just stream the single player. I don't have to bother anybody and schedule something. But I played the one-player version. It's a little penguin tied to a rock.
Yeah, why is he tied to a rock? I have no idea.
Because you have to have the mechanics of put something somewhere to tether and whatever, but you carry the rock around. And it seems like its own game, but nowhere near as fun as what I saw in the trailers, which is two people coordinating.
Right.
And so, we played it together. So each penguin has a few little abilities. He can jump. He has, and the D-pad has some directions. If he goes one way, he just does like a yay, thumbs up, a little emoji. One direction, you can play rock, paper, scissors, and they'll go 1, 2, 3, and they'll throw rock, paper, scissors to determine, who's going to go or whatever. And then there's this invaluable countdown, this little 3, 2, 1, because so many times you've got to do things at the exact same time. And the delay over, chat is not sufficient because you end up, jump. No, not when I jump. No, but the countdown times it out perfectly. And finally, you can grab onto things. And so you throw your friend at something or swing him like a boomerang, and he grabs the wall and you swing around behind him. And it becomes this, it's the kind of multiplayer I like. It's the Left 4 Dead style multiplayer that isn't me against you. It's us against the game. And you and I played it a couple days later. George, when your internet got fixed, you're like, man, that game looked good. Are you up? You up late? Can we play now? And we got together. We didn't stream it yet, but we played it. And by the way, Mo, we enabled, you fall periodically, regularly, and you learn to get better that way. But at the end of our stream, you found out there was a way to put these little stakes in the ground so you can teleport back to. Game changer. Oh my goodness. Game changer. Basically, every time we passed one little obstacle, George was like, plant the flag, plant the flag, plant the flag.
Yep. Every time. It's a super fun game. We apparently went a little bit further than you guys did.
Oh yeah,
yes.
I hope
on
so.
your stream.
Yeah, thanks to those flags.
Yeah, and because you guys also experienced a couple of things where, and John and I did as well, the game, it feels like maybe it's not 100% polished, like it needs a couple more updates because there were some things with the getting the game started that we all had problems with.
Yeah.
And you guys even had a freezing thing where you couldn't get back into it.
That's right.
It's got save states, so that part's nice as well. Save multiplayer states. What I'm curious about, do the same two people have to join the game again in order for that save state to be active? Or can you play with a different person?
Or maybe we both have that save
place
and go from that point. That's good.
I'm wondering.
How do you resolve that?
Right?
Good question.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a super fun game. I don't even know how much. Do you know how much it is on Steam, John? It like $20 probably, right?
No, I think it was like $14.99 or something like that. It was not expensive. I think that's what I recall.
Yeah.
And cheaper
So,
on sale right now.
$15.
Yeah.
If you have somebody that you enjoy arguing with for a time or getting frustrated by, it's absolutely one of those types of games like Twin Cop. We played that years and years ago. Kartik and his group over there, we love that game. And that was the game that kind of one of the first things you and I did on live stream, I think, John.
Yeah, cooperative.
Cooperative couch yelling at each other because each one of you in that place controlled a single unit. In this place, it's us controlling our own individual units, but they're still tied together with that rope.
Yeah.
So it's a very similar feeling. It was a lot of fun. I definitely want to play it again. And if anybody out there is interested, you can go check out Mo and John's live stream on our channel. John and I might do one as well, although we got a whole bunch of other games to throw out on live stream.
We do have some keys to give away now. After the fact, it's already sent us some giveaways. So I want to get those out to you.
Like I said, I really enjoyed playing it. Again, the biggest problem I had was that you could easily, without having those flags, which we did not have enabled, you could easily just make one mistake and be all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And after a while, we're like, okay, this is just totally frustrating. I think the default should be have those flags, and no stake should be like a supreme death mode or something like that for people want to show off or something.
Right, but permadeath is what it felt like, because it's like one fall. Now we got in a lot of practice because we had to keep doing the same things over and over again. But that's not so much fun because it's more about the exploration and the new obstacles.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more. Yeah. Leaps of faith, things like that you figure out. Because sometimes we would die because we weren't sure what to do.
Right.
And I felt bad being penalized for experimentation is what it was happening to us. So,
yeah, very much so.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Chronic migraine is 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine before they start. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It prevents on average 8 to 9 headache days a month versus 6 to 7 for placebo.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
If you're a die-hard Gen X grown-up, you can pledge your support by clicking join on YouTube or by becoming a patron at GenXGrownUp.com/Patreon.
Hey, what's this stuff?
Liquid Dial.
Why'd we switch?
This one has germ killer.
Our own liquid soap had germ killer.
No, it didn't.
Didn't?
Nope.
I thought it did.
Uh-uh.
What about the stuff before that?
It didn't.
It didn't?
Never.
Never?
Never, ever.
I thought it did.
You thought wrong, dear.
I did?
You did.
Most liquid hand soaps don't kill germs. Liquid Dial does because it's made with a unique antibacterial formula.
I know. I bet the stuff we had way back...
Dad, it didn't.
Nah, didn't.
Liquid Dial. It's made to kill germs.
Now, as we round out the back half of the show, guys, you know what I like to do here is take a brief moment to talk about the things we're looking at now or looking forward to between now and the next time we get together, kind of a peek into the future. And I'm going to start with you, Mo, and find out what do you have on the horizon.
Sure. So the first thing is a movie on Netflix, which actually is coming out the 14th. So it's already out today. It's called Electric State. And it's something about the visual on it just attracted me. It's like a science fiction's future, but there's robots, and it seems like the robots are very human-like as far as the way they act. They look like robots, but just the interaction and stuff in the plot just seemed like very, very interesting to me. It has Millie Bobby Brown is in it, as one of the people. So, I figured I like her as an actor, so I'll be happy to see that one, give it a shot.
Good.
The other one is Side Quest, which I don't know if you guys heard of this, but basically it's Mythic Quest offshoot. And it's going deeper.
Really?
Yes. And it's going to some of the lives of like some of the people who play the game, some people who work there. It's like little mini episodes that are focusing on one aspect or one person on the show, which I'm a big fan of Mythic Quest. It just cracks me up every time I watch it. And same people doing this. So I'm just imagining it's going to be awesome. And that's coming on Apple Plus on the 25th. What I'm most looking forward to is a movie that's coming out on the 15th of March. So it's out by the time you hear this, called Death of a Unicorn. Have you guys heard of this one?
The trailer looks great.
Oh my God, the trailer is amazing. So Paul Rudd's in it. Okay, two things I'm going to say about this movie. Right now, Paul Rudd's in it, and it's an A24 movie. So think of that, right? Think of that juxtaposition there. Where I guess they're going to like some retreat or something in the woods or something like that, and they accidentally kill a unicorn. And apparently unicorns are not the peaceful, nice creatures that they make them out to be, because these rich people find out that the unicorn horn has like some miraculous healing thing. And of course, they're going to try to exploit it as much as they can. And it seems like, just from the trailer, that the unicorns aren't happy with it and they take matters in their own hands. So they showed them basically being like hunted down by unicorns, which to me is just hilarious. And again, just the fact that it's A24 and Paul Rudd, I think worst case, it will be an interesting movie.
Yep, I agree.
So that's what I got. So how about you, George?
Well, I got a couple of things. The first thing that I'm going to talk about just briefly, John, go ahead and just add this to the template, because it's going to be in my looking forward to list for the rest of the year.
This is your Wreck-It Ralph sequel. You can be looking at this for months.
It's just going to be in there. I'm very much looking forward to getting my copy of the Alice Goes to Wonderland mini pinball machine that I backed on Kickstarter this past week. The Kickstarter is still going on right now. They've definitely fully funded. They're over $500,000 at this point. Wow. They had $100,000 goal. The whole thing about this pinball machine, it's an 80% size pinball machine. So like an Arcade 1-Up. And matter of fact, the guys running this company, a lot of them worked together at Arcade 1-Up in the past. But it's under $1,000. Even when they go to retail, it'll be $999. So you can pick it up on the Kickstarter right now. I think because we're out of the early bird stuff, you can pick it up for $849. There's some add-ons, of course, that can up your price. Yeah. Shipping is $100. So I'm wondering how the tariffs are going to affect this thing as we go forward. Yeah. Because I know everything's going to come out of China, so we'll see. Second thing I'm looking forward to this week is the Unraid NAS that I'll be building. I know I'm the third in our illustrious group who's built one. John already had one. Mo built one after that. I'm definitely looking forward to putting all the parts together and putting on the operating system and getting off of the single drives I have right now, because I've already had a server crash, or not a server, my PC crashed that I use as a server, and I can't deal with that anymore. The thing I'm looking forward to the most with a big asterisk is Bosch Legacy Season 3. And the reason why it's got an asterisk, it's the final season. It's the second Bosch series to have a final season. The original Bosch went for 6. Now this one has gone for 3. They're ending it. They are setting up a spin-off series for one of the characters who will be featured in season 3, who is also a Michael Connelly character. That detective will actually be in this storyline. It starts on March 27th on Amazon Prime. I can't recommend the Bosch stuff enough. I really hope that Kurt Welliver, I can never pronounce his name right, but anyway, I hope that he gets to keep using this character both in that new spinoff series, and also I hope they start bringing him into the Netflix Lincoln Lawyer series, because those guys share the same universe. They're both Michael Connelly characters. They've met each other in the books, and I'm really hoping we get to see him portraying Bosch in that series to at least keep it going. There's a big campaign trying to keep the series going. Doesn't look like it'll be effective, but yeah, Bosch Legacy Season 3 finale season, just March 27th, and then that'll be it.
Bittersweet.
They'll be back.
Yeah.
They've been dead before.
Yeah.
Maybe. Just hoping.
So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, John, how about you? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. So first, another new film coming out. It's actually out right now. I just haven't had a chance to see it. And that's Novocaine. This is another Jack Quaid film. This is the thing where he has a real syndrome, which he cannot feel pain. And his girlfriend is abducted. And he doesn't want to call the cops. So he uses his inability to feel pain to go after the bad guys and save the girl. Has Jack Quaid, who's basically playing Jack Quaid, just a charming, lovable doofus. Just happens to have this condition. Also, notably, Jacob Batalon is in it. You might know him as the Tom Holland Spider-Man's best buddy.
Oh, yeah,
right? The big heavyset guy.
Yeah.
Filipino. So he's basically Jack Quaid's buddy in this. So I guess he's become the sidekick character, but he's making a living off of it. So good for him. That's out now. Up next is a Jason Statham movie called Working Man. Now stop me if you've heard this plot before.
Beekeeper guy.
I've got a badass mercenary guy, stops doing that, gets a regular job, and this has to enlist his special abilities for something that goes wrong.
So basically every Jason Statham movie. Pretty much ever made.
But I like them all.
I know.
So this
isn't that crazy?
This one is done by the same writer-director from Beekeeper.
Which was the same plot again. I know, right. Anyway, March 28th. It's just in a few days, another week or so as you're hearing this, if you listen brand new. So I'm going to see it. I mean, I can't help it. The thing I'm most looking forward to is the release of a game. March 25th is the release of the new Breakout Beyond. Now, we got a couple trailers for that. Interestingly, this was a game that was originally slated for the much maligned and ill-fated, at this point dead in television, Amico, that was coming out some years ago. It was crowdfunded. People got their money, and then it didn't happen. But this is a game that was developed for it, which is an evolution of Breakout. But you know who owns the television properties that aren't Amico now? Atari again. So Breakout Beyond is getting a wide release. I think it's even on the Atari VCS and Steam and PC and PlayStation and Switch and everything. It's a horizontal, level-based, progressive version of Breakout. And if any of that sounds weird, you're right, but I'm intrigued to see what they do with it. So that's coming out March 25th. That's what I have. Now, before we get out of the show, I always like to talk about our generous Patreon supporters. Before I do, Mo, I know one of the benefits of being a supporter is a chance to ask us a question here in the show. Now, do you have a question for this episode?
Yes, we do. It's from I think a relatively new patron, Josh. If I'm mistaken, I apologize, Josh. But he had this really interesting question that I wanted to share with you guys, which is, what is a Gen X favorite thing? He says, for example, a favorite game, movie, music group from back in the day that's out of the mainstream and distinguishes your tastes from your Gen X peers, generally speaking, not everybody, but just generally speaking, and even from your fellow podcasters. What makes it your favorite thing? And what do you think other people don't get about it?
Sure.
This is a thoughtful question. So
it was a thinker. You threw the question at us like 3 days ago to give us time to think.
I said you guys are gonna need some time to dwell on this one for a bit. So if you want to, I can go first because I thought of something that I remember as a kid. There was a TV show called The Phoenix. Did you guys ever see it? Okay, that explains it.
There we go.
I, for some reason, love this show. One of those ones that started with a movie, a made-for-TV movie, then went into a series. Is about an alien that gets he's in some sort of suspended hibernation, and he gets rewoken into modern day world. And it was not an amazing show at all. Matter of fact, it only went 5 episodes, and then it got canceled.
Okay.
But I was never so upset as when I found out that show got canceled. And every opportunity, and since it was not a great show and just had such a limited run. Matter of fact, the main actor in it, he was in The Wrath of Khan. He was like Khan's right-hand man in it.
Yeah.
The one that dies. Yeah, he was the main
guy.
actor in this. Yeah, he was the main actor in this one. And I tried to talk to friends about it. They're like, no one cared. Like nobody cared. It was like so upsetting to me. So, and even to the point now, I was like, thankfully, because of the web, I'm able to find those episodes, but it never came out in VHS. It never really, because it just wasn't that popular. So it was like, once it was gone, it was just like, it never existed. And that just really bothered me to this day. You see, I'm so bitter about it. How about you, John? Do you have something?
Yeah. I have two things. Pull into George. It's my turn. Yeah.
All right.
Very easy. One is a musical thing and one is a toy. Both are things that no one else seems to know or care about. And I really still love to this day. I'll start with the toy. And that is something that was a big deal in the late 70s and early 80s. And maybe, Mo, you know, because you're a bit older. This was a craft thing that was everywhere at the time. And I don't know what you call them. It's these string art things. Like you get a piece of wood that has black velvet on it and you hammer these nails into it with this pattern.
And you do
and you wrap the string like it looks like a spider web kind of thing. And they were in every store.
Yes.
They were cheap because they were basically nails and string. It was not just thread. Yeah. And you could make a Disney character or a cannon or a mountain or whatever out of them. And nobody I knew liked them. They'd come to my house and go, what the hell is this? Even then. But you've never seen these? They're everywhere. And I think the reason it kind of distinguishes my taste differently is it is so meticulous and crafty and creative that it kind of plays into like, I want every string to be super tight and I want, and you have control over that. And it's an art piece and it's like Connect the Dots or, a coloring book with stay inside the lines, but you're making it out of something physical, not just coloring it. And the other one is a musical group, which you guys know very, very well. I'm a huge fan of the Alan Parsons Project. And so many people, the only thing they know is it's the Chicago Bulls entrance music. Is that one piece of music they've ever heard? Maybe they've heard Eye in the Sky because it was a big deal. But
yeah, that's
these
about it for me, to be honest.
like the art, these things come out of Alan Parsons came out of the 70s, continued to do work through the 80s, as his group. And I don't have to talk long about it. I could talk forever about it. But if you're curious what it is, so many people love Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
The best description I've ever heard of the Alan Parsons Project is it's like Pink Floyd, but with good musicians. So take from that what you will. I mean, as a career, Alan Parsons, he produced for the Beatles and at Abbey Road and worked over there. He's a huge, but his own group, I just love that group. So, and nobody else seems to know or care. So,
yeah.
All right, George. Now I know you were struggling coming up with something with this. What's your response to Josh?
Well, I wasn't necessarily struggling with coming up for something. I was struggling with the narrowness of the question. It was a very thin needle to thread, in my opinion, because it's pick a popular thing that distinguishes you from everybody else that nobody else might really know about. I'm like, well, those two things are kind of divergent. It's hard for something to be in both of those camps, I thought. Okay. Yep. But I did come up with something. I don't think it's going to be a popular thing, but it is my favorite. So that's why I'm going to qualify it for that. 1981 movie about World War I called Gallipoli. It's one of Mel Gibson's first film projects.
Wow.
Okay.
It was like, I think his second movie ever after that Endless Summer film that he wasn't the star of. Anyway, stars him and Mark Lee. It's a Peter Weir directed film. Same guy who did that crazy Russell Crowe Captain movie, whatever it was, where he was sailing on the ship. That guy.
Oh yeah.
That didn't do well
Masters
in the box office. Anyway, this is another. It's an epic. It's a saga, and it follows these two characters who are both top world-class sprinters from Australia who end up in situations in World War I over in a place called Gallipoli, where there's an important battle that's being fought. And it's essentially, their battle is like a distraction battle so that British troops can go ashore in this other place with less resistance.
Okay.
The Mark Lee character, who is actually the main character of the story, the Mel Gibson character is like his buddy, who's kind of the secondary character. Mel Gibson's character is like a business guy. He just does it because he thinks there's an angle in it, right? That's the only reason he's a part of this. Mark Lee is a devoted, idealist, young guy who is actually a little too young to join the army. So he has to go to different places to lie about it to try and get into the army. And then eventually they let him in because they realize he's like the greatest sprinter in the country and they could use his talents on the field as a messenger. Has has some iconic scenes in it, including the death scene of the main character at the end of the film where he gets shot as he's sprinting across the battlefield and his back is arched. And that's the scene from the poster. Even.
Right.
Beautiful film. I found it because a couple of years after it was released, it was put on HBO, which was brand new in our area at the time. And it was during that 5-day watch-a-thon where I never went to sleep and just watched HBO when we first got
when
it.
it first came out. Yeah, you just got it, right.
Yeah, and I found it at like 2:00 in the morning. So I think because of that experience, it's the most memorable film I watched during that 5-day period that wasn't like a Hollywood blockbuster.
Kind of imprinted on you. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie. I think it's beautifully shot. I think it's okay, decently acted. It's really well directed. Edited is great. It's got some great score to it. It's a fun film, just not a lot of people know about it.
Yeah.
I know when I mention it, people are like, huh? What, did you pronounce that right? What is it?
Using something for lethal weapon?
Yeah, same guy.
I believe it's called Geely. Try again.
Yeah, exactly. Gallipoli.
Well, that's great, man. So, Josh, thanks so much for the question. And again, anybody who out there who wants to ask a question is super easy. Just go to GenXGrownUp.com/Patreon, as little as $1 a month, and we'll take your question and probably answer it right here on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to thank, I want to say another new Patreon supporter, but it's not a new patron. Longtime supporter, goes by the name of Leafy Jawa. He's changed identities over. You might remember him as Captain Kiwi or our buddy Aaron, who actually co-hosted Turnbuckles and Territories with you, George.
Yep.
Look, everybody goes through ups and downs with their finances and everything.
Yeah.
He had to pull out of Patreon some time ago because his finances weren't there. And
Life,
look, people
right?
do this out of the goodness of their heart. So when they back out, sometimes they'll write us and say, "We're so sorry." I'm like, "Sorry, you don't owe us anything. You are doing this out of your kindness, kindness of your heart." Leafy Jawa told me some months ago. He's like, "Hey, I got to back out. Everything's cool. I just can't afford it right now." And so a couple months ago, right back in. And I'm not talking $1, $2, like at one of the higher levels, he jumped in and went, "I love what you guys do. I want to get back and support you. And now I'm able to again." He didn't forget about us. He's back around. So Leafy Jawa, thank you, Aaron. Thank you so
That's
much
awesome.
for making a space for us in your heart and in your budget to be able to help support what we do. It literally keeps the show on the air. It literally keeps us going. So you, along with a score of other amazing patrons who did just what Mo said, headed over to GenXGrownUp.com/Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And you can get your question answered right here on the show like we did for Josh as well, in addition to supporting independent content creation. All right. Thank you. Appreciate you, Aaron. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the show. Don't worry, though. If you were worried, don't worry. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another one. Next week is the backtrack edition of our show. George, you'd like to do the honors and tell the fourth listener what's coming up next week?
Absolutely. It's time to get your skates or wheels or your chains or whatever it is that you might have used as a youth to find your way in the world. We're going to talk all about Gen X kids rides in the next episode. Bicycles, skateboards, mopeds, or big wheels. It don't matter. We're going to find a way to talk about it. And we've all got some interesting stories. And we chose to break this one up in a slightly different way. So it'll be interesting to see if this is a method that people are attracted to. I can't wait to see the fourth listener emails on this.
Oh, yeah.
Or if we're able to pull it off at all. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yep, don't want to miss that one. Should be a lot of fun. Until then, I am John. George, thank you so much for being here, man.
Yes, sir.
Mo, I appreciate you.
Always fun, man.
Fourth listener, it's you we all appreciate most of all, though. We can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Take care, everybody.
No life, no fun. Don't you know that you're a grown-up?
Gen X Grown Up is a member of the Evergreen Podcast family. Learn more at evergreenpodcasts.com.
No more watching shows till sunrise. Unacceptable for grown-ups. Your dinner cannot just be french fries. Basically, life sucks as a grown-up.
All right. Hopefully that was a one-off. I do a pending update, but...
Did you ever run wired? You have wired back there now, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm hardwired in here.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, not that matters if you have a cat that loves fiber cable, apparently.
I don't have that problem, fortunately.
Science, science, science! Hello, podcast fans. Want to get weird with us? Come check out the Mad Scientist Podcast. We are a weekly show that looks at the history, philosophy, and hard facts behind your biggest paranormal questions.
Did the government really pay for a psychic spy program?
Yes!
Is it true that surgery got its start in grave robbing?
Yes!
Can a roller coaster really kill you?
Legally, we can't say so for sure, but sometimes, yes! myself, Chris Cogswell, and my co-host, Marie Mayhew, as we examine the science, philosophy, and history behind the strange and unusual. All to discover what's possible and plausible versus what's, well, just made up. Check us out wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mad Scientist Podcast.
In a world infatuated with comic fandom comes a show to help us remember the talents that have inspired us.
Whoa, cut.
Oh, come on. It wasn't that bad.
It's a bit dramatic. Let's just tell them about the show, guys.
We are the Canned Air Podcast.
Join us weekly for a comedic trip through pop culture.
We also welcome some cool comic creators, as well as some of the voice and screen actors that helped shape your childhood.
Find us on cannedairpodcast.com and on the Evergreen Podcast Network.